I think what I enjoyed most about this class was watching everyone's videos about the different uses of VR, because it really made me realize that how awesome VR can be in the real world where money is made. A couple of good slogans for VR would probably be it's the next best thing to being there, or it's not just for gamers anymore. As far as what I need more help with, I think possibly just constructing lesson plans, because I'm not very familiar with that, not being an educator by trade, but I have picked up a lot of tips and techniques through the process of this course. What still puzzles me is trying to figure out something that puzzles me. I kind of got most of everything in this class, and maybe what puzzles me is that more people aren't using VR in the workplace and employing it, because it's such a great feature for training. What surprised me the most was the many different areas where VR can be used. We learned that VR can be used in everything from construction to the medical industry, and it just makes the experience better. I think one of the most cool things that I learned was how Walmart used VR to train their employees for Black Friday shopping. If that can take place, VR can pretty much be used anywhere. What I have learned new in this class is I learned a lot about VR headsets and got very interested in those. And I actually bought an Oculus Go for myself. And what I learned by using that Oculus Go, there's a lot of games and apps and fun stuff. But one thing that I learned by using that Oculus Go is there's some reading apps. And there's an app that's called Virtual Desktop that I can basically see my desktop screen with the VR goggles on, which means I could do pretty much all of the reading assignments, all of this classwork, nothing that didn't involve heavy keyboarding, I could do looking through my VR goggles. And what was good about that was that I was immersed enough in that environment to when I was reading something, there was certainly not any visual distractions. And I found it very helpful in that regard. One of my reading apps on there, you can set the background to like a beach or an outdoor scene, and it's like you get to enjoy that scene without actually all the noise distractions that might accompany if that scene, or that if you were really there, like people walking by, or people talking or laughing or whatever, or animals making noises in the woods. So that was one thing I learned about the VR headsets. I gained a great deal of interest in those and I actually bought some, and I learned that it helps me even with reading comprehension, and just makes the whole process of reading and studying a lot more engaging and interesting. What I found difficult is typically what I always find difficult, and that's formatting papers, making sure the bibliographies are correct and the in-text citations are right, and all those different things. It seems like sometimes I may struggle a little more with that than the actual content of the paper, but I'm very maybe I'm OCD, but I try to go over that and make sure that's right. But that's, for me, the most difficult thing is making sure I have enough resources and that they're cited properly and so forth. What helped me when something got tricky was being able to look at the work of other students. And I don't mean, of course, cheating, but I mean, for example, I wasn't very familiar with lesson plans, so thankfully a few of my fellow students had worked on their projects and were ahead of me, and I was able to look at how they like put a lesson plan together. And it was also helpful with like the infographic, because you don't just get the informational ideas from them, but the way it's put together. And I think that when things get tricky, we really can collaboratively learn off of each other by looking at one another's work. And again, not to copy it, but to just look at, oh, hey, that's how that's done, and I need to put mine together something similar to this person's work. What really made me think was, when I thought about VR, and I thought how it might make a big impact on educational design. Last semester in our online teaching and learning class, one of the things that was basically presented almost right off the bat was that you didn't just take a face-to-face class and record the professor's lectures and basically just duplicate that in an online format and call it online learning. It was kind of a no-no. But when you think about VR, and one of the other students, I believe it was Sarah, mentioned in one of her recent posts about how that VR could be used for teachers to train teachers in terms of the timing of lesson plans and how not to get finished too early and stuff. And all that made me think about how that the dynamic of VR could completely, in some ways, change current thinking about instructional design, because where it may be inefficient and not very well or not very good pedagogy to put a video online, when you think about it in terms of virtual reality and the video being in VR and the student being more immersed, it might change the thinking maybe a little bit of how online classes are constructed, because it would be a totally different experience to be immersed in a classroom and be able to turn your head and look around everywhere while that professor's lecturing, as opposed to just watching it on the screen. So I can see that maybe some things might change a little bit in instructional design because of VR. I might have learned better if I didn't have a daughter get married right in the middle of this class, which I knew that ahead of time before I enrolled. But needless to say, there were some distractions. If you looking at some kind of analytics and didn't see me online for 2 weeks, that was why. But I made it through, given that this assignment here gets a decent grade. But I think that maybe if I had a few less distractions from that wedding going on, I might have learned a little better. But as far as the course content and the reading, it was awesome. What I would suggest to a student taking this class is, there's a lot of things I could suggest, but I would definitely say to them to make sure you not only complete all of the reading assignments, but most of our reading in this course was online. Articles, things I would read that even, if they weren't assigned, and embedded in those were some videos. I'm not quite sure if we were supposed to watch the videos or not, but I would recommend that, and I know there was videos actually assigned to watch, but what I'm referring to is sometimes we would read an article and there would be an embedded video, or there might be a link to take you to another article or segment. And I would recommend that you read those as much as possible. I know that when you're in college, there's a lot of content. Everybody's got you reading something, but I really gained a lot by, maybe I read some things that maybe weren't necessarily assigned to read, but I gained a lot and learned a lot by doing that. And I would recommend that the students do that, because I think they would get a lot out of this course if they do that. The assignment for this course that I feel was my best work was most likely the infographic assignment, and mainly because I really enjoy doing graphic work. I'm not a graphic designer by any stretch of the imagination, but it may have been Thomas Edison that said that the art of creativity is not disclosing your resources, but I do like to put things together, and basically, I may take an idea, not just totally duplicate it, but I kind of like doing that. And with the infographics, I love to try to find an image or a clip art or something that kind of deals with the subject of the segment and of the infographic, and I really like doing that. And so I feel like that was some of my best work in the class. Of course, I'm not grading it, so hopefully, Dr. Wright, you did as well. By completing that infographic assignment, what I learned was that, the assignment, I titled the infographic Interesting and Surprising Uses of VR. And basically because I was surprised and it was interesting. One of those was that dentist offices are beginning to use VR for distraction type therapy, where when the dentist is working on a patient, they have those VR headsets on, and so they're distracted. And I know some pain management doctors were also using it as well as a type of distraction therapy. So I thought that I learned that from that infographic assignment, do the research to put that together, and I thought that was pretty cool and interesting.